Thanks so much actually for accommodating me and coming on the channel and just talking about yourself and your story, and it's really awesome. I'm so glad that we connected, and we sharing our stories. It's so important, and I think it's so amazing.
It's my pleasure, Judith. Thank you for inviting me to have another talk. It was really nice talking to you last time. I think you're someone that has a lot of wisdom and a lot of insights and just like really, really good, juicy energy. And I love that. Like, I love just, talking to like-minded people. And I'm really excited for today as well. So, really looking forward to some nice discussions.
Yes, yes, no, that sounds amazing. I think let's start, and then you can dive in and introduce yourself, and
Hmm?
and you can go on and explain your story and how did you become a raw vegan. Take it away, and whatever you would like to share with us, please.
Yeah, for sure. So, my journey with my health started around a little over 2 years ago now. I was I think it's a bit difficult to explain, but I was in kind of like a rock bottom situation, more in like my state of my mental health, right? Like I was experiencing a lot of physical symptoms as well. Like I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was 15 years old, and the doctors instantly put me onto birth control after that. I was suffering from quite severe cystic acne as a result of, the hormonal imbalances from my PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome for anyone who isn't familiar with that abbreviation. But it's kind of like a situation where your ovaries encapsulate pockets of toxicity of cellular waste. And that kind of results in yeah, a whole list of like hormonal issues and issues within your body. It could result in, excessive hair growth, acne, like I was experiencing, mood fluctuations, weight fluctuations, and, a lot of other circumstances as well. And so I was dealing with that for quite some time. I had digestive issues as well. I had really, really bad anxiety. Like there were a couple of times where I had, especially like when I was up in front of like a crowd and like a really big group of people, I'd feel my heart kind of like palpitating, like racing. I'd feel really nervous and anxious all the time for what I can really like, I can't really point a finger at one good reason why I was like really anxious now. But I think it was just my physiology was kind of like, screaming for some kind of acknowledgement that my health wasn't in balance. Um, and so around 2.5 years ago, when I was really like, I really hit like a rock bottom with my mental health, I think. Like I was really not in a good place due to a lot of personal circumstances as well. And so I decided to really, really focus on myself during that time. It was kind of like my calling, and really just bring my awareness back to myself, like really focus on my mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical healing. And so I started, consuming things like not even like food, but just consuming information that was more in my own betterment that I knew was would be helpful towards getting me out of where I was feeling like absolute terrible, absolutely terrible during that time. Um, and the more I started practicing these things, I started listening to subliminals at night. I started listening to healing frequencies. I started immersing myself in environments that felt really good towards me. And that, yeah, just made me feel like there was a burden being lifted off of my shoulders. And the more I did that, the more I attracted in my life things that I feel really did contribute to my healing, which was where the diet perspective came into play as well. And I found figures like Dr. Robert Morse, maybe you're familiar, or maybe the audience might be familiar. He's quite big. And I saw him talking about like what the natural diet of a human being should be, which is essentially composed of predominantly fruits, right? Definitely raw, plant-based, but mainly fruits. And at the time I was already vegetarian, like I never really liked meat to begin with. But I had never like considered the fact that, eating a raw plant-based diet would be our natural way of eating, right? But when I started listening to this stuff, like it made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense also the way that the world is set up right now, that the so-called matrix, I guess you could say, like how it's really designed and made up in a way where it's not really conducive in our highest interest, conducive to our highest interest, our best selves, our, you know, healthiest selves. And so going down that rabbit hole, I really uncovered a lot of information, uncovered a lot of truths that made a lot of sense, but that also kind of, in a way, like it was kind of, how do I say, it was really difficult to accept because my whole life I'd gone by the paradigm that, you know, doctors are good for you. You always do what the doctor tells you. Like you know, there's a narrative out there that tells you a certain fact, what is considered a fact, and you take it as that. You take it as a fact and you never really question it. And that was me growing up until 22, 23 years old. So it was a rude awakening, I guess, like to really uncover these truths. But once I did start uncovering it, it was really difficult to go back. So I did make a lot of lifestyle changes. I, you know, transformed my health. I cleared my skin as a result. You know, my acne was purging when I first started, you know, making that transition and eating more fruits in abundance. And, you know, it was really difficult to trust the process at times when I was seeing all of these symptoms really start expressing themselves. But at the same time, it also made sense because I was like, my whole life I've been suppressing all of these with the food I was eating, with, you know, the contraceptive pill, for example, like the medication, the antibiotics, all of these things, I was suppressing them. Even supplementation, like synthetic supplements, even those were suppressing it. And now, like, if I want to truly clear them from the root, then I need to allow them to express and just get my body to get rid of it. And for that, like, it needs to express as much as it can, like as much as I've been suppressing it for the last 23 years of my life. So yeah, it was a difficult journey in the beginning. But now when I look back, like it's something that I've really embodied as a lifestyle in the past 2 years for sure. I've done several deep cleanses, or I've gone 100 days on doing just juices, for instance, which is really transformational. And coming up in January, I'm going to be doing a 21-day water fast, which is really exciting. Really looking forward to it. I'm kind of nervous as well, but I'm going to be supervised by Lauren Lockman. He's a really trustable figure, someone that I've been following also really closely, and he speaks a lot of truth and makes a lot of sense as well, and I really trust him as a figure. So I feel like I'm in good hands for sure for the 21-day water fast.
Is he online? So to interrupt you, is he online? So you connect with him online and then he guides you.
Yes,
Okay.
he runs a water fasting clinic in Costa Rica. It's called the Tanglewood Wellness Center. And I would love to go there. I would love to go there because it absolutely looks like paradise. You know, the abundance of good quality fruits that you can get and break your fast with is beyond imagination from where I'm at right now. So but yeah, unfortunately that's not accessible for me at the moment. I do want to go there one day and maybe do another one in the longer term, but for where I'm at right now, I'm going to be doing a 21-day water fast at the comfort of my own home. And I feel it will be just as beneficial just to be supervised by someone who's very experienced by that. And yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Like, having learned what I've learned in the past 3 years, I've also really integrated that to what I do as a profession. And I've started my own kind of practice to really help other people that may be in need of the kind of information that I was in need of 2 years ago. And I decided to help people with chronic skin conditions like acne, like eczema, like rosacea, psoriasis, and, you know, any other skin condition, because really there is no incurable and treatable problem in the body. Like it all comes down to if you're really willing to give your body, meet your body's needs, and give it what it really is yearning for, which is hydration from all of these beautiful fruits and vegetables that have been put onto this earth for our consumption. So Yeah, that was quite a story. Hopefully it answers the question some depth.
Yes, yes, that's perfect. Yes, I wanted to ask you, how old are you at the moment?
I'm 26 years old.
26. And you started you said your mindfulness journey, your awakening. When did you start with your spiritual journey again?
It was almost when I was 23. Or
Okay.
yeah, it was almost when I was 23. So I was about to turn 23.
Okay. Okay. So now you've been raw vegan for 2 years.
Yeah, for a little over 2 years now.
It's a fully raw vegan, so you don't eat any cooked food or anything like that.
I had one
Sometimes.
moment where I relapsed. And I went back to cook foods for like a week. And it was
Well,
funny
that can
because
happen to anyone.
yeah, but it was really interesting, Judit, because I never realized how addictive it could be up until that
Mm.
point. Because I was, I think I was around 4 months into like eating fully raw, and at the time I was still eating like things like oils, like mm, things that wouldn't be quite ideal, you know, and I don't really eat oils or consume oils or salts or anything like that at the moment. But um, even with that, when I tried like a piece of, it was zucchini, I think that my mom had pan fried, um, or she I guess pan roasted, I don't know, or sauteed in some olive oil. And I tried it, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try one piece and then just, you know, continue eating the way I was. And then the day afterwards, at the same time, I was like, okay, but I kind of want that zucchini now. And it was like for that whole week, like I started to eat more and more of it, and I was like, I felt it in my body as well, the way it was making me feel afterwards, even though it was like a tiny bit, like I could feel. I think at that point, I already started becoming a lot more in tune with my body and how certain things were making me feel. And when I ate something like that after 4 months of eating a relatively cleaner diet, I could feel the aftermath of it, no matter how, like, in the moment it tasted good, of course, it tasted delicious. Like, cooked food does taste delicious, undeniably, but afterwards I could feel like how it was burning like my chest, like the bloating in my digestion, and like it wasn't comfortable. And I was like, if I keep doing this, I'm just gonna relapse and go back to what I was doing before, which is what I was trying to escape in the beginning. So like it kind of just brought a lot of light back to my eyes to realize that I was in this, you know, cycle, and I cut it off for good, and I never went back to cook foods after that.
Yes. So actually, it happened to me too, the same thing like you're describing, because I think that everybody goes through that. Once you start feeling better, then you're almost like, oh, I'm just gonna. I've tasted probably I can count on about one hand or so. You know how many times I've tasted here and there something like it was something like a vegan dish, or it was the vegetarian sushi. You know, like with just avos and cucumber, and then afterwards, I feel so not right. You know, you feel in your body like you're more tired, and it's almost like it's sitting in your stomach. And my point is actually what you're saying. Like if I tasted something that had vegetable oil in it, then my body starts craving it so much. So, like you said, the following day, you just can't stop thinking about that thing. So it takes you like a week just to get that out of your mind. It's almost like your brain was addicted to it, and that pathway is still in your neural network, you know? So it's actually better not even cheating, you know, eating all these other things, because I feel like, you know, it's such a work to now stop that addiction, you know, because you're like, no, I can't start eating that again, you know, and I don't want to be sick again, you know, you always have this in your mind. Yes, I totally agree with you. And I wanted to ask you, do you want to share maybe where you come from and where you're living now? Would you like to share that, or?
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm originally Turkish by blood. So my family, of course, both my mom and my dad were from a town in Turkey called Kahramanmaraş. long pronunciation. So, but yeah, I didn't really grow up in Turkey. I grew up in, I was born in Australia. So my parents went there before we were born because they couldn't conceive for some time, and they went through IVF treatments, and we ended up being conceived. My brother and I were twins. We ended up being conceived in a test tube.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's quite a backstory. But I never went to Australia after that again. I lived there for the first 2 years of my life. And technically I have a passport, but I don't know what like the country is like. So one day hopefully I will go there again. My brother is there at the moment. But yeah, I grew up in the United Arab Emirates, so I was there for most of my childhood. My dad is a petroleum engineer, so we grew up there. And then I came back to Turkey for most of my studies, my high school, part of high school, and most of college for me. And yeah, so it's been like all over the place. I was in the Netherlands working for the past 2 years or so. And of course, when I found out about like this whole thing about health, I wanted to, change professions. I didn't really want to do what I was doing anymore and really start working for myself and starting my own little coaching practice, which obviously didn't restrict me geographically, so I could come back to Turkey to do that as well. So that's where I'm at right now.
So you're following your passion, which is amazing. That's how the
Yeah.
universe supports you. That's so
Yeah.
amazing. I love that. I love that. I wanted to ask you, you said did you gradually transition into being a raw vegan, or did you go like cold turkey and one day to the next?
It was cold turkey.
Cold turkey
It was
from
cold
eating
turkey.
meat
I
and
had a day or
everything.
two. Sorry?
Sorry, is it from eating meat? You just had the standard diet, or were you already a vegan? Or
So I considered myself to be relatively healthy at the time. I was eating vegetarian, so I was still eating dairy products and gluten and all of that, which now that I think about it is obviously not very healthy. Um, but I tried to eat quite balanced. Like I would eat things like beans and quinoa and, things that the average person would, conceptually see as healthy at the moment. And I was at the time like trying to transition to a more whole food plant-based, like, relatively cut out the dairy, but the dairy was really difficult for me. But when I came across this information, it was cold turkey. Like I think I had like in the beginning 1 or 2 cooked meals where I was like, okay, how do people do this? Like it was really difficult in the beginning. I think also because I went cold turkey and it didn't really transition. Um, but like I ended up getting some like hummus and some salads from the salad bar across the street, and those are kind of, I guess, my crutches to really go like full raw vegan and mainly fruit based. Um, so I guess
did
you
you
could
do
say it was
also
pretty cold turkey. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to find out about did you start with the juice fast, or did you just start eating raw vegan, or not the juice fast at the beginning?
No, I didn't start with a juice fast. The idea of a juice fast didn't really settle into my mind until it was about like 6, 7 months into this. Because like I had seen people doing, 60 days, 40 days, 100 days. Like I saw one lady, I think Sarah Erica, like she really inspired me. She had an interview with Jillian Berry where she did 366
Yeah.
days, I think, of
I've
juice.
seen that interview. It was amazing. I'm getting goosebumps now that we're talking about it.
Yeah, I was like, what? How? Like, how is that even possible? Can you, like, do people survive? But she looked like she was more than surviving when she was talking, and, where she said she was before the juice cleanse, or versus where she was at like a year after doing a whole year of just juices, was like, it was mind blowing as well. I think she was really like almost bedridden and um not in a great place. And after 365 days of juicing, like you could really see the light in her eyes. And I was like my mind can't comprehend it, but I could see her transformation. So I was like it kind of like broke down those barriers in my mind of those confinements that I had of what was possible. So it was like that's something that I have to try. Like I have to see how it feels to do that. And so it was kind of like a gradual acceptance of doing a long-term juice cleanse. At first I did like a 10-day one. I felt incredible, and I had like one of those old centrifugal juicers where they spin really fast, and they oxidize the juice a little bit, so it's not that optimal. But I did it. Even on that, I felt incredible. And then I did a 14-day one, and like my skin cleared up like almost overnight when I was doing it. Like when I did it for 10 days, I was like, whoa. And then 14 days, and then I was like, okay, like I'm gonna do a long one. I'm gonna commit to it. And then I went 100 days in the middle of winter in Amsterdam.
Well done.
Which was maybe not the best time to do it, but I did it, and eventually it all worked out. So it was really, really transformational, so to speak.
Wow. And what juice do you have at the moment that you use?
I have a Turkish brand. So I have two juicers. I have one for the one I use right now is a citrus juicer because we have a lot of citruses in this season. And it's one of those ones where I think it's called Princess, the brand. I don't think it's like a big, like the Hurom and the Nama. I've heard like those are really great juicers, but the ones I have are quite smaller brand wise. And the citrus juicer is called Princess. It's the Princess juicer where it's just like you put the citrus, like the orange or the clementine or whatever you're juicing on it, and it just spins and it juices it for you. So it's really practical. It's really easy to clean as well. And the other one is a slow juicer. It's also a Turkish brand. But it just like masticates the juice or the fruit from the juice, and it doesn't like oxidize it. It doesn't spin really quickly and heat it up. So there's more the nutrients are preserved much better when you're drinking the juice.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great. And did you get any detox symptoms when you went raw vegan?
Yeah.
You can talk about that maybe, and how quickly it cleared up your problems, which months, and how long did it take?
Yeah. So yes, great question. I'm just trying to think in concise. So I think one of the main things I noticed was my tongue. I think the first week, like I started detoxing or I started eating this way, even when I still had like those one or two cooked meals, it turned brown, like or I guess like almost black. And I was like, what is, like, it looked really, really weird. And I think that was because historically, like I did smoke as well. Like I smoked a few cigarettes, and I don't know if it was just that, but I do know like right now that when I look back at it, it was a lot of heavy metals coming out of my body. I felt a lot of spasms, like my eyelids were kind of like twitching, a lot of spasmodic things happening in my body. My fingers were twitching, and it was all like it was just really weird because I was like, are these deficiencies? Like, should I be concerned? Like, am I just not eating enough? Like, those were in the moment, they were really difficult to trust, but now that I look back, like they were all just kind of things that I kind of overcame. And those persisted for some time. Like I think that the coating on my tongue didn't go away until I was like 2 months in to eating this way. And then of course, like my symptoms, my skin purged. Like it was the worst it had ever been in the last couple of years. I had pimples all over my forehead, all over my cheeks, like my back as well. Like that was really, really difficult because again, like my instinct was just to cover it up, like to take something that would suppress it. Like, and now that I look back, it's just like I think your ability to really clear your skin when you're dealing with a skin condition is I feel like it's directly proportional to your willingness to persist through when it's purging like that, because like it really does affect your self-esteem because your skin is how you show up in the world, right? And you having dealt with eczema, I think you might be able to relate to that as well. It's like it's the first thing that people see. Like they don't, when you're having some kind of internal condition, people can't see that. And of course, that's also quite difficult, like to experience because it's still your body, it's still like your health. But when you're experiencing something on your skin, like that's how you show up in the world. When it's on your face, like that's what people see first when they look at you. So it could be really damaging to your self-esteem, like especially if you really identify with it. That was where I was at in the moment. And I was wearing like beanies and stuff. Like, of course, it was winter, so I was trying to cover it up and everything. But I kind of deep down knew internally that this just was my body purging it out. And if I'm only putting good things into my body, like, what else could it be? Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Like, I'm not eating McDonald's burgers all the time, or, you know, doing things that are damaging my body. So if this is showing up right now, like, it must mean that my body's pushing it out. So those persisted for some time. So I had like consistent purges for a good 2 months. And then it would come back in episodes. So I would have like purging for like, it would go away for like a month, and then it would come back again, and then it would go away again, and then it would come back. But each time it was like gradually less and less and less. And on my juice cleanse, it cleared up. Like it never came back afterwards. I still get like the occasional pimple. I think like, I don't know if I have any right now, but very, very minimal. Like, and that's if I eat something like really spicy, for example. Spicy could be really, if it's overdone, it could be really inflammatory to the body. And not, I won't say really inflammatory, but like considerably more inflammatory than like a alkalizing fruit, for instance. Or if I like exert too much pressure, if I'm like stressed out a lot, I might get like a pimple or two, but it's nowhere near where it was at when I was, you know, detoxing initially and really purging out of my body.
That's great. That's good news that you managed to clear that, and I'm sure that such a success story. It's also help for your clients, you know, especially you specialize in that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing, you know. I really feel that other people that struggle with other illnesses, it doesn't show up on the outside. And with eczema, everything shows on your skin and on your body. And it's almost like we talked about, it's almost you feel shame, you know, because you don't feel good, everybody's looking at you. And it's just not the best. But at least your body shows you in a visible way something was wrong. People that's got other illnesses, that are other organs, they don't know until there's serious issues like cancer or anything like that. And I think healing from cancer, you know, it might be a longer road, you know, in a way. It might be a little bit, I'm not saying that eczema is not as serious as cancer, but, you know, mentally as well, I think cancer is a lot more challenging to overcome, you know, the thought that you can heal from something like that. And okay, my next question is, do you make any dehydrated recipes?
I don't know. I actually don't have a dehydrator at home. But I do want to get one maybe further down the line. After I complete my water fast, maybe that's something that I can look into. But I will say that I do consume some dehydrated fruits especially. So things like not grapes, dates. I consume a lot of dates. I soak them first though, because I feel like they're a bit hard to eat otherwise. We have some persimmons, like we have our own persimmons right now that we harvested some months ago here. And my parents like dried some of them while I was away in the Netherlands because they wanted me to eat them, and that was really sweet, of course. And I couldn't have like many of the fresh ones, but now I can enjoy like the dried persimmons in an abundance, and they taste really good. Like, I don't know if you've ever had dried persimmons, but I really, really like persimmons, but when you dry them, it really like condenses the flavor. And I have them with things like apples, and they're really yummy. The other thing I'll have dehydrated is tomatoes. So during the summer, especially, like I don't consume any salts, and usually the conventional sun-dried tomatoes you get are heavily salted. But what I'll do instead is I'll get my own tomatoes, like those big beefsteak tomatoes, and I'll slice them up really thin, and I'll put them out in the sun for a couple of hours, and they taste really good. And you know, if you like blend them up with some red peppers, and can make like a nice zoodle sauce, and it tastes really yummy. So yeah, those are some of the dehydrated foods I'll have.
That's awesome. And do you consume nuts and seeds and
Not at the
sprouted?
moment. No, not at the moment.
Okay,
I'm quite
okay.
so I guess you could say, like, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Doug Graham, but his
Yes,
recommendation is the 80-10-10, where it's like
yes.
Yeah, your consumption of overt fats is very minimal. So if I do consume like fats, it will be an avocado, but that's also very, very occasional. So it's mainly like it's really fruitarian based. Like my lifestyle is very fruitarian based with occasional also greens like lettuces, soft tender leafy greens, but predominantly like a fruit based way of eating for sure.
So you're high fruit raw vegan.
Yeah, yeah,
Basically, not a fully fruitarian, but a high fruit raw
yeah,
vegan. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's great. And I wanted to ask you about dry fasting. Since we're talking about water fasting and dry fasting, what's your take on that? There was a lot of controversy around it lately. You know, it also brings the topic in with a lot of people. It touches their heart. You can maybe just talk about that.
So I started reading Hilton Hotema, who talks about actually human beings. It's really like some people can find it quite extreme to the conventional paradigm nowadays, but he talks about human beings originally being breatharians, like we're actually meant to survive much longer than we do. We're meant to live at least like a couple hundred years, and because we're putting food into our system, even if it's just fruits, it's aging our system. Of course, it's taking energy and taking some of our vitality to process that, to digest that, to assimilate that, and that causes our system, our this mechanism and this body to age, like when we take energy to digest and to use food. So that at the time like really made me think, like, are we even supposed to be consuming water technically? Like, as our physiology, like we're physiologically designed for consumption, otherwise we wouldn't have a digestive tract, obviously. Like, so it was quite a far-fetched idea, but I really like where he was coming from because he made a lot of sense. I would really recommend anyone who's interested in the truths about health and consciousness and how those two kind of interplay with each other to read that book. But now when I think about dry fasting, I think even if we are intended to, like what Hilton Hotema says, like be breatharian in nature, I feel like we're very, very far from where we can actually sustain ourselves on a breatharian way of living. And it takes a lot of cleansing of our systems. Like, this is not just for me 26 years of damage that I've reversed, it's or that I'm reversing constantly. It's generations and generations before that as well, because it's a lineage, a whole lineage of degeneration, right? So maybe some of my ancestors could live off their lives being breatharian and dry fasting and all of that, but I think where I'm at right now, dry fasting could be really, really dangerous because the average person has as much as 8 to 10 pounds of uneliminated fecal matter in their colon from all the years of dehydrated foods they've been consuming. So you're already really severely dehydrated, you're severely constipated, and if you want to go on do a dry fast and like deplete your body of more water, then I think that's going to be really, really dangerous from where you're at right now. And so I don't abide by dry fasting at the moment where we're at right now as a species. I think if we go down a more regenerational pathway going forwards, like our future generations, they do get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. Eventually, we might be able to get to a point where dry fasting is actually beneficial for us. But as long as we keep, eating dehydrated foods and, there's this fecal matter that's in our colon, then I don't think it's going to be sustainable because that needs to be pushed out and it requires hydration for it to be pushed out. So water fasting in that sense is very, very beneficial, but dry fasting at the moment is not something that I condone, no.
Yes, I think that you gave a really great answer and went into detail about, why, people, it might not be the healthiest. I think that especially if you're new to raw veganism, you shouldn't do it. If you're 20 years down the line and you feel called to do it, like you said, your body is so much more healthy and you'll be living this lifestyle. I totally agree with what your point was about it. Do you incorporate any supplements or additional holistic practices in your daily routine?
I did a lot of supplements in the beginning. So I was consuming I was consuming a whole cupboard full of supplements when I started. I was doing like selenium, zinc, B12, vitamin D, magnesium, I think calcium as well, like vitamin C, all of it. Like anything I could get a hand on, I was consuming all the supplements, but I dropped all of it when I realized that, supplementation was, I think what happened was eventually and gradually my thinking really shifted towards what would I do in nature? Like if I had nothing, like if I was naked and I didn't have any tools and I was just out in the rainforest where I'm supposed to be, like, and I was in, like in nature, basically. I wouldn't have concentrated supplements, isolated supplements like that. I wouldn't even have a juicer. Like when I think about it, juicing isn't really a natural modality, it's just something that we've modified. So when I really think about it, like I kind of mostly steered away from the things that I wouldn't do if I was in nature and didn't have any access to any of this. And the more I learned, the more I also found out that, the supplements industry wasn't very different than the medical industry. Like, first of all, our livers aren't really designed to be breaking down like these high levels, these concentrated levels of supplements in our bodies. So it could be really damaging to the liver. And it can't, like, if you're not absorbing your nutrients, there's no point in putting like high like doses of supplements into your body just for it to be able to assimilate it, because that's gonna, like, whatever you give your body like externally, it stops it from doing the work to actually do that. That's why, like, when people drink coffee, when they take in caffeine, they get that rush of energy from it. But then when you go from years and years of drinking coffee and you suddenly stop drinking coffee, you go through withdrawal symptoms and you feel really bad and you feel really tired all the time because your body doesn't have that it's not used to producing its own adrenaline. It's not used to producing its own energy because you've been relying on coffee to get that this whole time. It's the same thing with supplements.
Yes.
I had a client that was reliant on zinc because it kept her skin like very non-oily, like it wouldn't get oily when she would take the zinc supplements. And I told her, like, you have to wean off of it because that's causing some kind of dependence in your body, like that is not allowing for it to get oily, but it's not like a healthy dependence because you're reliant on it. And she went off of it, and of course, for the first couple of days, her skin was oily again. But the more she cleaned out her system, the more like that kind of balanced out, and she didn't experience any oiliness anymore, even though she wasn't taking the zinc supplementation. So, I stopped taking supplements as a result of that as well.
I love your answer. That is great. And I wanted to ask you, did you ever see any new plague or in any of your plans? Do you believe in it? There's a bit of controversy going around right now about it.
I believe in it for sure. I saw it coming out myself on my juice cleanse. It didn't. So a lot of people say, like, when they're doing long juice cleansing, like they see it come out in like one big chunk, or like they see like it in pieces, but it's really obvious that it's mucoid plaque. Like I had it where it just came out in like pieces, and I'm thinking it's mucoid plaque, but it may not be, like, but it definitely looked like what you would see when you Google that stuff, which I don't recommend you doing if you're very lighthearted about this stuff. But yeah, so I did experience some definitely old, hard, dry stuff coming out that didn't smell very pleasant at all. But from what I've heard, like from what I've actually learned from Lauren, like having spoken to him, because he's obviously all about water fasting, he says like even people that have juice fasted for a really long time or juice cleansed for a really long time, like when they go on a water fast, they still eliminate a lot of stuff. So I don't think juice cleansing alone is sufficient to get out all of that. Which just shows you how deep this stuff goes. Like, it's incredible.
Yes. I have to interview you after your water fast because that will be amazing to hear your testimony afterwards.
I'm gonna document it. I have a friend that's gonna call me every day for 5 minutes. I'm gonna be telling him how I feel, and we're gonna record it. So that's gonna be available, but I'm more than happy to do an interview about it as well. I'm so looking forward to how it's gonna be, and I'll be really excited to talk about it afterwards too, hopefully.
Wow, yeah, that will be amazing. Is there any specific fruits that you recommend for certain illnesses that your clients struggle with, or that you coach people to transition?
Did you say do I recommend any
Uh,
fruit?
yeah, fruit, or like specific fruits that will be good for that illness or this illness. I know. Do you also have more serious illnesses that people come to you with?
Well, I wouldn't recommend like any particular fruits, because I kind of like, I really believe that it's not the fruits or the herbs or anything that really heals the body. Like healing is a biological process, right? Um, the body heals itself. It's not like something that we take externally. But what allows it to get to a state where it's healing more is when we allow it to free up more energy. So if you're eating foods that are difficult on your digestion, that take more energy to digest, then it's not gonna put as much energy. It's not gonna be able to put as much energy onto cleansing and healing you. So if you look at the fruits, for instance, fruits are the easiest to digest foods of all the food groups, and that's why they're so healing, so to speak. But the thing that actually does the healing is your body. It's not the fruits. So even when you kind of like look at the fruits, there are things within the fruits that are easier to digest. So things like watermelons, melons, your citruses fruits, things that are generally the highest in water content. Cucumbers, for example, are the easiest to digest. If we could like sustain ourselves fully on cucumbers, that'd be great. But cucumbers are very low in glycogen and sugar, which is also what our body needs to continuously run and be sustainable. But things that are generally the highest in water content are easiest to digest and therefore the most healing, the most allowing for our bodies to heal, right? Whereas things like bananas, dates, like persimmons, like your sweet fruits are much lower in water content. So they're relatively harder on the digestion of all the fruits. Not that they're unhealthy in any way, but like if you're really wanting to heal something quickly and just make it a smooth process, then would definitely like err more on the side of higher water content fruits. So melons, watermelons, citruses, grapes, like all of these are great. Mangoes are my favorite. But if
Me
you
too,
just want to
mangoes.
sustain a healthy lifestyle, then enjoy all the fruits in abundance. Like honestly, like just go
It's
in
also
all.
about
There's so much.
enjoyment.
Yeah.
So
Say again. Say again.
yeah, I think that I'm just saying it's also about enjoyment. I see a lot of people, they're so stuck in, they're so strict, and they put it in a box, that,
Mm.
oh, you can't do citrus, you can't do this, you can't. And I think sometimes we just let go, let go of that control and wanting to control everything. And we must listen to our bodies, like you've been saying as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, 100%. Like I think when we come to this lifestyle, a lot of the times, I won't generalize, but at least for me, like I feel like it could be really ego driven. Like there's something in our body that we want to heal, there's something that we want to get rid of, and like we're very identified with our physical bodies, and like it's not something that we look at as like a healthy way of eating. It's something that's like a temporary process that we're going to do for 3 months, 4 months, X amount of time, and then just kind of go back to our way of eating, way of living like we regularly did. And so we want it to be a quick process, and it's almost like a battle, right? It's not like something that we make peace with. Our food should be something that gives us a lot of joy. It should feel like coming home. It should feel really easy, right? But when we're really forcing ourselves, like was it this that I ate that was causing my symptoms? Like, oh my God, I did something bad. We're constantly in this ego fear mentality, right? And I think honestly speaking, I think that could be like worse for you than eating a relatively more cooked diet, because our minds could really reprogram everything that's happening in our bodies. Like they could really impact our cells, how they're behaving. Stress is also acidic just as much as cooked food is acidic. So if you're in this constant fear, straight like stress mentality, like you're programming all of your cells to behave in that way. Like you have a lot of shame and guilt, and these are I don't think we should feel shame for feeling these feelings, but I think it's important to recognize that there's a time and a place for these, and that, we can also let go of these without holding on to them so tightly. And when we do let go of those emotions, like, this journey becomes pure bliss. Like, it's something that we do out of love for ourselves, for our bodies, for wanting to treat our bodies with the utmost, like, the best that we can, for wanting to be our highest, best, healthiest selves. And when you think about it, it's the foods that are really easy to digest, the foods that are living, available, and all the nutrients, like all of the energy that our bodies could ever need, that really do allow for it to be that way. So yeah, I think that's a great point that you touched upon. Like, it's not about a life of restriction. It's not about like fighting your way into this. It's really just allowing for your healing to happen, like really stepping into a feminine energy, like, so to speak, like, just really blissing out on this lifestyle. Like, that's what it's all about, I think.
Yeah, since I've gone raw vegan as well, I haven't restricted myself once, I don't check how many calories I eat, and I still lost 10 kilograms at the beginning. So my body knows, it just eliminates the excess. If there's extra in your body that you don't need, it's not going to store it as fat like previously when people consume the standard diet. It totally works differently. And yes, and
100%. I was consuming way more than my regular calorie intake on my juice cleanse, because I was drinking like up to 7 liters, sometimes 8 liters of juices a day. And one like whole liter, this is empty now, but one whole liter of orange juice is about 400 calories. So I was consuming a lot more than what I would regularly be drinking, what I would regularly be eating. And I still was dropping, like, I was still dropping weight, which just kind of like dissipated the calorie myth in my mind. So yeah, 100%. This isn't about restrictions at all. It's a lifestyle of abundance, in my opinion. Like, it's everywhere. Fruit tastes freaking delicious. Like, I wouldn't change it for anything.
And I just heard someone mention something that really, someone that I follow, he's more in the metaphysical teaching space. And he says, now you must actually name your body. You must maybe think about naming your body, giving it a name, because I find that since I've been eating so clean, it sometimes talks to me, like it will be displeased or it will be very happy, missing some fruit when I'm eating. I know this might sound a bit far-fetched for some people, but I find that sometimes my body talks to me. I don't know about you. And then I was thinking maybe I must just name it. I'm still thinking about the name that I can call my body, I'm still like working on that. But the idea just stuck with me that it is the body has its own consciousness, and it actually started with me when I ate something that I shouldn't be eating the one time, and my body was so upset with me. And I didn't know where this upsetness comes from because I wasn't experiencing anything else. And then I realized it was actually coming from my body.
Yeah.
It was really weird. I never had that experience before being a raw vegan. Yeah.
That's so interesting that you humanize your human, like, you humanize your physical body. Like, that's really, really, I never thought about it like that. So my yoga session this morning, like, I love our teacher. She's like great. And I feel like I really feel drawn to her because she's like really enlightened. I feel when she's also instructing the yoga course, she puts so much emphasis on everyone like actually listening to their bodies. Like, even though she's instructing the course, it's almost like she's not really telling us what to do. She's telling us to listen to what our body is telling us to do. And that, I feel, has really connected me to what my body wants, like, in the moment. Like, what do I want to put my arm this way? Do I want to like stretch this way? Or like, it's I think it's difficult to explain without like you actually connecting to your body in that way. But once you do, like, things become so much easier because you're not constantly in your mind intellectualizing what you need to do. You're just intuitively guided because all of your cells, like everything in your body, is talking to you and telling you like what it wants, what it is asking you to do. And I'm listening to this podcast, Joseph Rodriguez, if you're into like metaphysics and kind of like consciousness and all of that. Like, I think his podcast is really, really insightful because he also explains it from a very logical standpoint. So the place we're at right now is like a very logical, like intellectual world, of course. So you can really make sense out of what he's saying as well. But like listening to him as well, like he says you're always guided, like you just have to stop resisting it. Like if you just accept that you're always intuitively guided, like then life is going to be so easy. Like if you don't, like you're still going to get to where you want to be at, but like it's just going to be much more of a battle for you to get there. Just like when you're detoxing, like when you see all these symptoms and you're thinking, oh no, what I'm doing is not working, whatever, like you're just fighting yourself and you're still getting there, but you're just making it so much more of a nightmare to get there for yourself. Whereas if you just accept and relax and like see all these symptoms as expressions of your body of getting rid of things that aren't supposed to be in your bloodstream, it's just like so much easier and so much more accepting, and just like you can relax into it, right? And I feel like it's not just about health, but it's about everything in our lives that happens, is like just that state of allowing, that state of being at peace with everything that's happening, and realizing that it's all like divine expression and everything that's supposed to be in the higher good. Like it's just so much easier to live and to be alive. And
like everything connects, the eating,
yeah,
the meditation, the mindfulness, the yoga practice. That's why you can be so tuned in, because your body is lighter, you're eating lighter, you're not eating these heavy foods that weighing you down and pulling down your vibration, And do you do any other mindfulness practices except yoga? Do you do breath work or meditation every day, or?
I do breath work and I do meditation. So recently I've been doing again, like with these things, I don't have like a strict kind of like a routine or a rigid routine that I follow, but I just kind of do it when I feel called to do it. With the meditations recently, there have been a lot. It's the winter months here. I think in South Africa, it looks like it's summer.
It's summer. It's become
Okay.
summer.
I think also it doesn't get that cold there. I had some South African friends, like even when it is winter, it doesn't. Yeah, so but here it's like the winter months, and winter like is colder, things are lower vibration, like a bit slower, and like I used to resist it so much before when I was also working a corporate job, like all during the summer when the sun comes out, I'm always so high energy and I'm like, yay, like let's just, wide awake all the time. And I love it. I love the sun. And I always resisted the winters because I don't like the dark, or I didn't. But this winter, like I just kind of changed my thinking around it. And I was like, what if the winter time is just like me being called back to rest a little bit and just slow down and enjoy it, and just that's kind of what I've been being called to do recently as well, is like when I wake up, I'm meditating more, breathing a lot, like recognizing that this time is a time for rest. Like literally when you look outside, all the leaves fall off the trees. Like it's a time of transformation, transmuting things that aren't really serving your highest interest, like letting go of all of that. And just it's a really, if you use it well, it could be a time for a lot of regeneration and healing within your body as well. And so I've been more recognizing of that in the past couple of weeks, and really set my intentions for what I want in the new year as well, things that I want to bring into the world, manifest, and create, and really just working towards weeding out like the beliefs, the things that are in my body that aren't really serving that vision anymore. So yeah, there's a lot of meditating, a lot of stabilizing my nervous system through breath work involved, yoga. I've been painting a lot as well, which is just like such a flow-based activity. Like I just enjoy doing it a lot. Calms my mind, calms my nervous system. And yeah, I guess those are some of more like mindfulness activities that you could say, as we like to call it. But it's been really nice to kind of think of it that way, to use this time for rest and regeneration and recovery.
Wow, that's great. Yes, I agree. I agree with everything you said. And I just wanted to ask you one more question about any common misconception about the raw food healing and raw veganism that you would like to address, that myths or misconceptions that comes to your mind.
Yeah, so I think one of the main things is depleting and like nutrient deficiencies. Because that was also an initial fear of mine. That's why I was so heavy on the supplements when I was going into this. But it's that we can't get everything that we need from an orange or from like a watermelon, because these foods are really simple, right? And we haven't eaten simple like this our whole lives. But when you think about it, all the fruits have all of what we need. Like if you can sustain yourself eating a mono meal diet for a really long time, like I've heard of people doing like 150 days on watermelon. I don't think it's something I would do, but still, like being able to do that just shows someone being able to do that just shows that these fruits have what we need in plentiful amounts and plentiful consistency as well. Even if like the world is kind of not where it is at right now, our soil is a bit more degenerated, we could still survive on just fruits alone, with all of the nutrients that we need. It has all the nutrients that we need. But the reason why people tend to feel like they're depleting themselves on just fruits alone or like a very simple diet is because they're not at a point where they can absorb everything that they need from these sources of food. Because there's a lot of obstructions in our colon, a lot of obstructions in our lymph system, blockages around our cells that don't allow for us to be able to absorb our nutrients into our bloodstream, and for the nutrients to actually penetrate our cells and get into our cells, right? And me having experienced all that mucoid plaque leaving my colon, like when I was juice cleansing, and of course in my water fast right now, I might see that, I'm not sure, we'll see, but like it just goes to show how deep this stuff actually goes. And when you do actually cleanse your system out, like you can absorb all of your nutrients and more through just the fruits and the leafy greens alone. All of your fatty acids, all of your quote unquote protein, everything that you need, all of your amino acids, you can get minerals, vitamins, whatever, on just fruits alone. And I actually interviewed one of my friends who lives basically the way that I do, predominantly fruit-based, eats lettuce and leafy greens like occasionally. And he got his blood work done after 2 21-day water fasts, also after eating this way in between and everything. And it came back perfectly. All of his protein, his B12, like the things that people initially think, the iron, like all of that, the people like initially think that you can't sustain yourself on with like a fruit-based diet. All of it came back perfectly within the range that it was supposed to be in. So I interviewed him actually. I think I'm not sure if I shared the link with you, but if I didn't, I will. But it was a really interesting interview. Like I myself was quite like fascinated at his results and how he was talking about it. So yeah, it's like just goes to show that you can get everything that you need on just fruits and vegetables alone. And you're not depleting yourself, you're actually just cleansing your body.
Yes, yes. And anything else that comes to mind? Any misconceptions or other myths? Like we talked about the mucoid plague, which is actually real. I agree that it's not necessary everybody's going to experience those huge pieces of things coming out of them, because it also depends if they take other supplements, with it, like that helps them to for this plague to come out, mucoid plague.
Yeah.
What I experienced is what you had as well, like small pieces that were like almost like rubbery, like blackish. That's like it's almost like you can't clean it, off the side of the, and things like that. I did experience as well. I didn't experience the huge things that people talk about, but there is definitely something to it. There definitely was something in my colon, so there is definitely a truth to it. I think everybody experiences it in their own way, and I agree about the nutrient deficiency as well, that it also depends on how your body can actually absorb it as well. And yes, and anything else that you would like to share? Because I think
yeah, just one last thing that came to mind when we were talking about nutrient deficiencies and how obstructions and everything in the colon is are the actual amount of protein that we need in our diet, which I mean I'm sure you've heard of it, is like I mean we all kind of grew up with a paradigm that your body needs a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbs and fats, and of course in that trifecta, like the the amount of carbs that you need is the smallest. It should be quite the opposite when you think about what your body really needs to run on. Because when you think about what a protein is, it's just a chain of amino acids, right? And when you consume things that conventionally would be known as proteins, that are essentially like chains of amino acids together, your body needs to break them down back into amino acids, into utilizable singular amino acids, so that it can create its own chains of polypeptides and create its own protein. Because when you look at what the animals eat, for instance, the animals that we would conventionally eat, well, they eat greens, like they eat vegetation, like grass, whatever. And from the amino acids that they get from those, their bodies assimilate it and they create their own polypeptide chains and they make their own protein. But then when we eat the meat, our body needs to break it down again into polypeptide chains and amino acids so that it can restructure it. So it's like you're eating recycled protein, you're eating recycled amino acids when you're eating meat. So it's not the protein that we need, it's actually the amino acids. And that's why like fruit, technically, when you look at it, it's low in protein, but it's high in the amino acids, the singular amino acids that our bodies can actually utilize and make its own protein. And that's why you never hear of anyone like being severely sick or dying from like a protein deficiency. If you look at the hospital ward, there's no one in the hospital for a protein deficiency. People are there because of excessive protein in their bodies, because their bodies can't break down they can't efficiently break down recycled proteins that we get from meat-based products, animal-based products, or even some plant-based foods. Like, it's really difficult on our digestion, and creates problems and imbalances and diseases in the bodies, like the cancers and the tumors and the cysts and the skin conditions, right? So I think that's one big misconception that definitely needs to be addressed more often in the health space in general.
No, I love your answer. I love your answer. That's exactly how it is. And you gave a nice scientific approach, answer to that, which is great. And I just wanted to ask you, is there anything else you would like to share before we end the interview about something important that you want to tell the listeners? And also share at the end where they can find you, and you can explain what you do for your clients and where they can follow you and everything.
First of all, thank you so much, Judit. I think it was really nice of you to have me on here and just kind of talk about these topics that I feel are really, really hold a lot of gravity, and they're like information that people really do need to hear. And there's a lot of people out there that are going to resonate with this, and some might not resonate with this at this time, and that's okay as well. But I think I'll say, like, wherever you're at right now in your journey, I think just appreciate that you're on a journey where you're basically just becoming your best self, your highest self. And like, if you're at a hard place right now, if you feel like you're stuck and you don't feel well in your body, like, just know that your body is capable of recovering from immense amounts of damage and things that that haven't been serving its highest level of good. And whether that be like skin conditions like eczema, or acne or psoriasis, which I know could also be very debilitating, like mentally. But I just want you to know that, like, there's always a way out of this stuff. Like, there's no the only limit that you have is within yourself. And once you really let go of those limits, you can really accomplish whatever you want in life, not just in relation to health, but really in anything. So I think that's what I'll say is, like, if anyone's out there feeling stuck or hopeless, then just recognize that you're already on the journey to making everything happen that you could ever possibly dream of happening. So yeah, that's a few words of motivation, I guess, so to speak.
Awesome. And then please share where everybody can find you on all the social media platforms.
Yeah, so if you do want to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at Skinbyesra. Maybe you can also link it in the description or something. That would be helpful. Yeah, I have some free resources on my Instagram page that are linked in my bio that you can access, where you can really get started on working on your health, working on reversing any kind of skin condition completely for free. I used those steps to reverse my cystic acne, and my mom also reversed her eczema. So you can use that guide. And if you want to reach out to me, just feel free to send me a DM on there and we can have a chat and talk about how we can get you to a better state of health.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Esra. This was an awesome interview. You gave us so much information. You've got such a huge library of knowledge that you accumulated over the years, and you really know what you're talking about. And I love your answers to the questions, and it was such a blessing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Evan. Have an awesome day further.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.